The medals have been handed out by the judges. The best nurseries and gardens have been named. This one here won Best Show Garden, but there's one prize left to claim.
That's right, it's the one you decide, the BBC RHS People's Choice Award. And you've chosen some amazing winners over the years. In 2017, it was Chris Beardshaw.
In 2018 and 2019, there were back-to-back wins for Mark Gregory.
And in 2021, it was Tom Massey. But which garden will be the winner in 2022?
Tonight, it is all down to you.
Hello and welcome to the Royal Horticultural Society's Chelsea Flower Show 2022, an event supported by the Newt in Somerset.
A big night tonight, as well as the People's Choice contenders. We've also got a jam-packed show, so let's see what else we have in store this evening.
Dame Mary Berry joins us in the Great Pavilion to delve into a floral family connection.
JJ Chalmers is here to uncover the Chelsea secrets to get kids hooked on gardening at an early age.
And impressionist Alistair McGowan joins us to share his newfound passion for gardening.
And to share his impersonation of Monty Don.
Look forward to seeing that. But first, all week our experts have been exploring the garden designs on offer this year and no doubt have their favourites. And now it's your turn to choose your favourite from the 13 large show gardens in contention for the BBC RHS People's Choice Award 2022.
Voting will open at the end of the show and you'll have until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening to cast your vote. Comfy there, Joe?
Very. You can have a go in a minute, Soph.
Thank you so much. Well, to help you decide, we will be looking at all the runners and riders throughout tonight's show. And here are the first four.
The RNLI garden, designed by Chris Beardshaw, celebrates almost 200 years of that charity, and the design very much takes its influence from that late Georgian period. So at the back you've got the green oak pavilion, and just underneath that pediment is the motto of the RNLI. The planting is very lush, lots of flower colours, of blues and purples. And just punctuating the space across the garden, the trees include pine and elm, materials that would have been used to make those early lifeboats. And finally, two large bespoke urns made of terracotta and decorated with sea holly, another nod to a maritime tradition.
This is the Morris & Co. garden designed by Ruth Wilmot. William Morris was a Victorian poet and designer, and this garden is very much a tribute to something he was well known for, his love of patterns, two of them in particular. The trellis pattern, which is how the garden's been laid out, the pathways and the waterways. And in the water you can see the willow bough, which is also all over this pavilion behind me. The planting is quintessentially English, colours that William Morris used in his patterns, and birds too. They feature heavily in his designs, which is why the willow has been planted here, and it's drawing the birds in. Blackbirds, blue tits, robins, they've all been coming here in their droves.
This is the St Mungo's Putting Down Roots garden, designed by Darryl Moore and Adolfo Harrison, and it's an urban pocket park where people and plants come together. The materials are mainly reclaimed, so we've got timber boundaries and seating, and then on the paving we've got stone and brick, and some of those are painted bright colours. The mild steel planters are again in bold colours, and they create level changes within the space. And the planting itself is ecologically layered, and it's mainly shady planting with a few accent colours coming through. And at the back we have this sculptural pergola which represents a safe space for people who use this garden.
This is the Mind Garden by Andy Sturgeon, and it's designed to bring people together to be themselves, and by connecting with others, improve one's mental health. A collection of sculptural walls create closed seating areas which provide places for conversation and contemplation. At the back of the garden, it's surrounded by birch trees and woodland planting. And as the garden slopes down, there is this more drier, arid area where the plants are more resilient to droughts. And down by the water's edge, you'll find plants that are moisture-loving, such as Thalictrums and Regersias.
Well, what a start, and those are only the first 4 gardens. We'll be showing you the rest throughout the show, so stay tuned to see them all. Now, Chelsea wouldn't be Chelsea without our very own Mary Berry, and she's been off round the pavilion to find the beautiful plants that will work in any border.
I'm here on the Blackmore in Langdon stand, and believe it or not, they have exhibited in every single Chelsea show. And I'm joined by Nick from Blackmore in Langdon.
Hello,
Hi,
Mary.
Nick. It really is wonderful. I must say delphiniums are my favourite. I always think of delphiniums as the glorious blue, and there's a sort of hint of pink up this end.
There's lots of different colours of delphiniums now. I mean, they were originally they were blue. But there's all sorts of different colours.
I have an aunt who's in heaven at the moment, and she had a delphinium named after her, and it was the most beautiful deep blue with a black eye. Do you still grow it?
We do. It's Molly Buchanan.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a lovely blue.
I grow them with some success, and I love to try to get them to reflower again. So as soon as they're in full bloom and the bloom is gone, I cut them down and feed them.
That's right. Cut them down as early as possible. As soon as they finish flowering, cut them down before they go to seed, and then you'll get a much stronger second flourish than you will if you don't. Feed them well, water them well, and you should get a good flower in September.
And your begonias are very blousy and beautiful. Do they all grow as big as that, or have you given them a medicine to make them do that?
We do give them quite a lot of attention, but they will get to that size. So yeah, they've been bred to be a lot bigger than standard begonias.
Well, they certainly are absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
One of my new favourites are ferns, and I've just started a fernery. Sounds a bit grand, and it's very modest at the moment, but I'm here to seek advice. And Felicity, now your family firm, Bowden's, you seem very young to be doing this.
Well, I'm only 19. I've been exhibiting for a little while now, but yeah, it's wonderful to be able to be part of such a great business at such a young age.
Well, I've started it underneath an evergreen oak.
So that's what
And
we're looking
it's
for.
fairly dry under there, so to start off, I have been watering them. Is that quite right?
That's the key. So for the first year, putting them in dry spaces, you want to water them basically as much as you can. Once they're established, you're all right then to go back to watering them once or so a week. They'll tolerate it a lot better after you've had them a little while.
What would you recommend for my modest fernery?
So I would definitely go for something evergreen that's shady. So we've got a Bleckenham Pennamarina here, and this will go really well. It will spread, so it's a lovely border fern, and it'll cover the ground. And another one is this one, so Dryopteris erythrosaura, and this one is totally hardy, and it's got beautiful, beautiful gold frond. So it's supposed to look like this. It's not dying.
Well, they look very good. Here is what I call a maidenhair fern.
Yeah, so this is also called the southern maidenhair fern, but we call it Adiantum capillus veneris, and it's a really, really beautiful fern.
But what you don't tell me is it's very difficult. I have it in the bathroom, and if you forget to water it regularly, you've lost it.
That's the key. It's
What
so
advice?
hard. It's so hard to keep alive indoors. Stick it outdoors. It's only half hardy, so it'll go down to about -5 before it starts to perish. But take it out of your bathroom, put it in your garden.
I'll certainly do that. Do you think it'll come back?
I hope so. I imagine it will. They're pretty good, these are.
Fabulous, thanks. But we're not done with Dame Mary yet, as she'll be back later in the show to officially launch our People's Choice vote. Now, even if you haven't got a garden, the Houseplant Studios are here to inspire you. So we sent Adam Frost over there to get creative with our indoor spaces.
I spend my life designing with plants outside, but there's no reason why you can't use the same principles inside. With a lot more of us spending more time at home, why not make the place just a little bit greener, bring that garden inside. And I know houseplants come with a certain fear factor. We think about what we do outside. First of all, we understand our conditions. Inside, that might be what way a window faces, the hot spots, the cooler spots. Then you're looking actually at the moisture. What's the bathroom like against the kitchen, against the front room? Is there cold? Is there hot? Sometimes inside we necessarily haven't got too much in the way of flower, but look at shapes, forms, finishes. They have incredible leaves. I love the way here that this prayer plant sits against the aloe vera. Fantastic plant. So if you just go back and start to put it together piece by piece, understand those conditions, I don't think you can go far wrong. So, you've got your head round growing your houseplants. You can now keep them alive. But you really want to affect the mood of your house. Think about what we do outside. We're looking to change and adapt atmospheres. Here, the dark background sets the tone. The lighting behind me just gives us a beautiful backdrop. Think about what the sun does outside. And I do feel like I'm now bathing in plants. And that is what this is about. It's inspired by Japanese forest bathing. And I think these do take a little bit more looking after. You've got like the fishtail palm, some of the orchids around me. And there, a lot of us will know, a simple plant, begonias, so many of those all work inside. The plants in this studio even control the music that is playing. But before I go, I've got to show you this. It will blow your mind. Chelsea is about things that are a little bit different. Yeah, those electrodes are picking up on the biorhythm of the plant and playing music. So depending on how I behave to this plant, you then get that sound. That's crackers.
Thank you, Adam. No excuse now not to be brave with your houseplants. Give it a go. Now, onwards with our rundown of our garden contenders for the BBC RHS People's Choice Award. So, here are the next 5.
This is Hands Off Mangrove by Tayshan Hayden-Smith and Danny Clark. And it's a design that highlights racial injustice and global deforestation. It's framed by giant pollarded willows, and at the centre is a steel sculpture of a mangrove. The mangrove being a threatened ecosystem, but also a nod to the mangrove 9. A community of plants grows in the borders below. Large foliage with flowers rubbing shoulders together. There's boulders, they provide seating. And then above a sort of urban mulch of crushed concrete, there are containers with edibles in them, tomatoes, chilies and chard.
The Alder Hey Urban Foraging Station, designed by Hugh and Howard Miller, is all about combining urban with green. The idea is to inspire young people to live healthy lives surrounded by nature. In the centre of the garden is a precast concrete picnic blanket, which has little herbs popping up all the way across. The front corner of the garden is made to look like a foraging kitchen, so you've got furniture inspired by a wheelbarrow and a picnic basket. The planting takes its lead from foraging, so all these plants could be foraged, and the colour scheme from apple blossom, with lots of pinks and creams and whites.
This is the RAF Benevolent Fun Garden, reflecting on the Battle of Britain, and it's designed by John Everest. Now, the main focal point is this sculpture of a young pilot looking skywards, and these benches are inviting you to sit down and imagine what he would be seeing up there too. The spiralling stone walls are inspired by the blast walls of the 1940s. The planting is a stylised woodland edge. We've got a cloud prune camellia, blue iris and some purple lupins, but plenty of green to create that sense of reflection.
This is the Meta Garden, Growing for Future by designer Joe Perkins. It's designed to emphasise the connection between plants and fungi within a woodland ecosystem. A sunken seating area within the garden is covered by a pavilion structure that is inspired by the unseen fungal network upon which plants and trees depend. The seating area is surrounded by a stream, where a bank of UK native and plants from around the world create a stylised meadow, which feature poppies, foxgloves and globe plants, which blend into a planting scheme.
This is Building the Future by Sarah Eberle, a design that takes its inspiration from the landscape and vertical rock formations of the North Cornish coast. The planting is lush and shaggy and combines architectural perennials like Regersea with iris and also wildflowers, cow parsley and scrambling buttercups. And the canopy's made up of birch trees, lime and pines. And at the centre is a monolith. And on its top, like the land that time forgot, is a green roof and the source of the pummeling waterfalls.
Well, that's 9 show gardens done. Have you seen your favourite yet? Don't decide just now, because there are still 4 more contenders to go, and we will bring you those a little bit later on, along with all the details you need to vote. But first, I'm joined by BAFTA award-winning impressionist, comedian, actor, pianist and writer, Alistair McGowan. Welcome to Chelsea. Your first time here.
It is, I can't believe it. I did play football here once, years ago, with David Woodale, weirdly. But yeah, first time at the Chelsea Flower Show, and I've loved it. Had a good look round. The rewilding garden as well, the winner, very inspiring, and reminded me a lot of my garden at home, actually.
And
quite wild.
Are you into the growing flowers, or is it more produce?
We have a very ornamental garden full of nice flowers, which looks after itself. Well, the gardener comes and looks after that. But for me, I was inspired really by watching Gardeners World over the last 2 or 3 years since moving to a more rural location. And it was Frosty, actually, who said, you know, gardening is just playing. That's all you're doing is you're playing. Some things are going to go right, some things are going to go wrong. Doesn't matter. Just get out there and have a play. And that's what I do. I play and see what comes out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I get mutant fruit and vegetables, and sometimes I get an apple cellar full of wonderful apples.
And you are learning, aren't you? Because you were basically a Londoner, or you certainly lived here for decades in a small garden.
Yeah. 30 years in London with a very small garden, but I grew up in Worcestershire, and a lot of my mother's friends and relatives actually were plum growers in Evesham, in the Vale of Evesham. So I grew up surrounded by fruit, spent my student years picking fruit. So now having 2 or 3 plum trees, and I think I've got 6 apple trees in this lovely small orchard I've got at home, I feel very happy there, and it connects me with my youth, and I go out in the summer with a belt around my waist and a basket hanging down there, and I'm never happier than picking all this fruit. And,
but you've got loads of apples, haven't you?
Yeah, there was one tree in the first year. Last year was a disaster, as any apple growers will know. But last year, the year before, I think we got, I didn't count them individually, but working it out, I got 3,000 apples off one tree alone.
Wow.
At Bramley. Who would have thought that's how many they give? But
what do you do with them all?
Well, Monty will tell you where we are. I live quite near Monty, and there is a wonderful collection of people. There's the Tenbury Wells Apple Festival every year in Herefordshire, and you can take your apples there. They can be juiced, they can be turned into cider, and of course you can freeze them. So if you stew them, I freeze them. I'm eating apples. I ate apples this morning, which I froze last September.
Can you do Joe Swift as well?
No, I can't do Joe Swift.
What? You've got to be able to do Joseph. That's your next one. You need to be working on that. So you are. Well, that's amazing that you're growing all this stuff. It's what a thing to be doing.
I can't let it go. I mean, a lot of people, you know, they'll have fruit trees in their garden, sometimes several, whether it's rural or urban, and just let the fruit go. I have to pick every last thing. I've got a fruit cage with strawberries and red currants and black currants, and I just have to pick them all, and I freeze them all, make things, cakes. You know, I could have gone on Bake Off with one of my cakes, I think.
But it must have really changed. I mean, you lived in the city for so long. It must have really changed you as a person.
It has, and I have a friend who lives nearby who's another actor, and last summer he was offered a job in the West End, and he actually rang me and said, should I do this job? Or, because it's going to clash with The Harvest. And he seriously was contemplating turning down the West End because of The Harvest. But I could understand that. You know, you don't want to miss anything.
What about flowers? Do you think you move into those?
I don't know about flowers, but I love the herbs as well, and I get all very Nigel Slater, you know how Nigel Slater when he's doing his cooking will say, I'm just going to go out in the garden and pick some rosemary. I'm going to get some thyme or some tarragon from the garden. And I absolutely love that. So I'm cooking something and I'll say to my wife, you know, I'm just going to get some marjoram, which is my latest, goes beautifully actually with plums. So I get very inspired by people like Nigel Slater. And Raymond Blanc as well, who, you know, Raymond I've known for years. I've seen him on the TV, and he always goes to pick the apples from his orchard to make wonderful things, you know, that his mama used to make for him when he was a little boy, which is wonderful. And I'm the same now, I make the things my mother used to make for me. Angel delight. No, well, I do apple crumbles and everything. So I've been inspired by the Garden as Well people and the cooking people and being here, and I just love being amongst all the trees in the summer. That's where you'll find me. Belt around my waist, basket down there.
Done.
Plum after plum.
Well, Alison, thank you.
Jam.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for joining me here at Chelsea.
You.
Now, many of the gardens this year are designed with the next generation in mind and hope to inspire kids to get growing. It's an idea that's close to the heart of Dad of Two, JJ Chalmers.
This beautiful and functional garden was created by the Blue Tangerine Federation. They are a special educational needs school who have specifically designed it to help children discover the range of benefits that plants can have for our well-being, helping us all stay happy and healthy. At the heart of this garden is this beautiful hornbeam, which used to be used to create traditional medicines for treating anxiety and stress. But it's also great for climbing, which they encourage the kids to do so they can learn about risk-taking. Unfortunately, I've asked and they won't let me. This is a chamomile lawn. It has so many sensory benefits. They actually encourage children to walk through it with bare feet, releasing calming aromas. And thanks to its honeycomb grid, it's even wheelchair accessible. Look at this gorgeous and delicious vegetable patch. Cultivating fruits, vegetables, herbs is such a wonderful hands-on practical learning tool. All of these plants have been brought on from seed by the kids themselves, and it is wonderful. They're able to learn about life cycles, they're able to reap the rewards of their hard work. They'll be able to cook and eat what they have grown themselves. And these raised beds are absolutely perfect. Wheelchairs can get alongside, and anybody with low mobility, well, they can perch on the edge as well. What they've got in the bed here is pretty much what I've got at home as well, and I love gardening with my kids, and they particularly love getting stuck into the vegetable patch because, well, they can get their hands dirty. I was literally planting out the peas with my daughter over the weekend. We'll often send her out to cut a little sprig of rosemary when we're doing the cooking, and it's a bit of a jungle. My son loves things like this, the beans that are climbing. It is just wonderful, and, well, you just want to get stuck right into it. Well, the kids said they wanted to grow a garden from weeds, and when we traditionally think of weeds, well, it's just plants that are in the wrong place, really. And if you want them, they're not weeds anymore. Things like brambles can give you fruit, nettles can be made into soups and teas. A tree, well, it can give you shelter. The kids are taught how to forage safely, cook food on a campfire, and they're given a sense that there's so many things around them that occur naturally that can be used. Green spaces aren't just a place you kick a football around in. Everything and everyone has its worth.
Yes, it's so important to get kids interested at an early age, and my kids always garden with me, and now my son is a professional landscaper. I'm very proud of him, and hopefully he'll build a garden here one day. Now it's time for the final four gardens, hoping to secure your vote for the BBC RHS People's Choice Award.
The perennial garden designed by Richard Myers is inspired by the designers, the growers, the landscapers and the gardeners who help to give us the gardens that we love. It's very much classical in style, but with a contemporary twist. You've got a central rill of water just bubbling along through there, so very gently. And that is the feel very much of the garden, which is surrounded by this beech hedge, and that provides a good backdrop for the sculptures made of bronze and slate. You've got the deep plums of the aquilegia and the lupins, and that's contrasted with the white of the foxgloves and the alliums.
This is the Bruin Dolphin Garden designed by Paul Harvey Brooks. The idea behind it is that it's an old industrial site from the 1900s that has been transformed into a contemporary living space for a couple who love gardening. The trees have been chosen for their ability to capture carbon and also improve the air quality. And there's a whole range of plants that have been selected for this garden as well, from Buddleia and Verbascum to Digitalis, Hostas, Cirsium. And there are edibles in this garden too, which is why you have an underground fridge that doesn't need electricity, where you can store what you grow.
This is a rewilding landscape designed by Lulu Urquhart and Adam Hunt. The theme is of ecological restoration and rewilding to show the role of beavers as bioengineers. A brook flows through the woodland into a beaver's pool and dam with the lodge behind, and an old timber walkway leads across a wetland meadow. The planting is inspired by the southwest of England, using native wildflowers and grasses amongst a copse of hawthorn, maples and hazel.
This is the new Blue Peter Garden Discover Soils by Juliet Sargent, and it's a design grounded in education. It highlights the importance of healthy soil, both for supporting life and fighting climate change. Below ground is a sunken seating area where children can learn about compost. There's a subterranean cinema that has films about soil life, and the whole lot is topped by these floating wildflower meadows. The planting has earthy tones with heucheras and geums. It's a place where children can get muddy paws and pause for thought.
Well, that's it. We've seen them all. And joining us is Dame Mary Berry to open the BBC RHS People's Choice Vote. Mary, lovely to have you here. Have you had a wonderful day?
I've had a marvellous day. I don't think I've missed anything.
Really? There's a lot to see here, Mary. Right, to cast your vote, go to our website, bbc.co.uk/Chelsea, where you'll find details of all 13 show gardens and the terms and conditions and privacy notice.
Well, Mary, it is over to you.
The vote is now open.
Whoa! Hey!
It definitely is. Mary, thank you. The vote is now open and it closes at 7 o'clock tomorrow, Thursday, the 26th of May. We'll be announcing the winner on BBC One on Friday night. And remember, please do not vote if you're watching on demand after the vote has closed.
Well, that's it for another night from us. But if you still want a bit more Chelsea love, I'm back with Monty on BBC Two in 30 minutes. So don't forget to tune in. But from us here, it's good night. Good night.
Good night.